Ever pondered the chilling question? What set the stage for the long, tense conflict known as the Cold War? Was it merely ideological differences, or were there deeper, more intricate factors at play? The curtain rises in the immediate aftermath of World War II, in the year 1945. The globe, still reeling from the horrors of war, was divided into two spheres of influence. The United States and the Soviet Union emerged as superpowers, each with a different vision for the future of the world. The United States, a bastion of capitalism and democracy, sought to rebuild and democratize war-torn Europe. The Soviet Union, on the other hand, aimed to spread its communist ideology. This ideological clash led to the first signs of tension and was the spark that ignited the Cold War. By 1947, the Truman Doctrine and the Marshall Plan were in full swing, aiming to contain communism and rebuild Western Europe. The Soviet Union responded by tightening its grip on Eastern Europe, leading to the creation of the Iron Curtain, a metaphorical and physical division between East and West. In the early 50s, the Cold War began to heat up. The Korean War marked the first major hot conflict, where the superpowers fought indirectly through their allies in the north and south of Korea. Fast forward to 1962, the world held its breath during the Cuban Missile Crisis. This 13-day standoff brought the world to the brink of nuclear war, with the US and USSR facing off over Soviet missile installations in Cuba. The 70s brought a brief thaw in relations, an era known as détente. However, this period was short-lived, and by the late 70s and early 80s, tensions were escalating once again, symbolized by the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan in 1979. The Cold War reached its climax in the 80s with an arms race and the Strategic Defense Initiative, famously known as Star Wars. However, by the end of the decade, the Soviet Union was on the brink of collapse. The fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989 symbolized the end of the Cold War, and by 1991, the Soviet Union was officially dissolved. To summarize, the Cold War was a complex and multifaceted conflict, driven by ideological differences, political maneuverings, and military standoffs. It began with the division of Europe post-World War II, escalated through events like the Korean War and the Cuban Missile Crisis, experienced brief periods of détente, and ended with the fall of the Soviet Union. Yet the echoes of the Cold War continue to reverberate in our current geopolitical landscape. Rising tensions between major powers, ideological clashes, and arms races serve as stark reminders of a past not so distant. The question we must ask ourselves is not just how the Cold War began, but how we can ensure that history does not repeat itself.